Remember, if you want to follow what Andrew is doing, you can find him at Corner Plot Properties on Instagram. For now, let's get on with the show.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Property Doctor podcast with me, your host, Dr. Andrew Threadgold. This week, a little bit different. I'd like to tell you where we're up to with a couple of things that have been going on, particularly a tale around the perils of bridging finance, and also a little reflection on my dealings with business owners that are looking to exit their business, because in case you don't follow my socials, I'm actively looking to acquire businesses at the moment. So I've had a few conversations and I've got a couple of pieces of reflection about that. But without further ado, I think I should start off by telling you a little bit about what we've been doing recently and a little tale about bridging finance. So one of the projects that we have been finishing, well, it's actually now finished and it's been let out very successfully, is a very luxurious holiday property for people with mobility needs or accessibility issues, which is where people maybe in wheelchairs, maybe they need walking aids, maybe they need care, that kind of thing, and they need to go on holiday, because everybody needs to go on holiday, but there is very little out there for them. So we bought a bungalow that was suitable, it had the right things that we needed to make sure that we could do it. We essentially demolished it and redeveloped the site and created a bespoke property that's absolutely stunning. It's called Liberty Stays. And it's been let out very well. We've had people coming to it that have had significant care needs. They've never been able to go on holiday ever, and they've found this property. They've been on holiday for the first time in their life. Only a few weeks ago now, we had a mum that had brought her disabled daughter who needed 24-hour care by the mum, but they couldn't find anywhere to take her. But obviously they found our property and had a fantastic time, and such a heartwarming story. Now, this property, the reason I'm mentioning it is that this property we bought using bridging finance. So we purchased the property with a deposit, the rest was bridging, and then the bridging also contributed towards the renovation works, and the rest of it we funded ourselves. So bridging in that instance, it was before we'd really got to grips with private investment, but bridging will always have a place because it is a very useful product when you need it. Anyway, so we got bridging on it. The bridge term was 12 months. Essentially, as I've said, we redeveloped the site, put another floor, another story onto the property, completely redid the job, and then applied for the refinancing. And with bridging, they want to know, as you go through the process, they want regular updates because they take a charge over the property, and that's their security. So if anything goes wrong, they want to know that the site is in a position that they could sell it quickly and get their money back. Fair enough. The exit from a bridge is also important to the bridgers, because they want to know that when you've done what you're going to do, that you can either sell it to get their money back, or you can refinance, put a mortgage on the property, and they'll get their money back that way. So they want to know your exits, and they want to know the intended use, and they want regular updates all the way through the process to know that you're actually doing it and you've not just taken the money off them and gone to the south of France. So we did this every month. I would speak to the lender and I would send them information and pictures of what we're doing and the schedule of works for the next month and the programme that the guys were following. And it was all going hunky-dory, and we had an agreement with the bridging lender. So I think the bridge started in March 22, and we had an agreement, in fact it was in the contract with the lender, that at the very latest we would either apply to sell the property and market it, or we would apply for term finance, which is a mortgage, by month 9, which I think was December. So we applied for the term finance in end of October, early November, I think. So well before we were supposed to do it. The project was finished and it was getting ready to be rented, and everything was going hunky-dory. Little did we know that during the first purchase of this property, because we bought it from the original owner who'd owned it since 1930 something, they'd lost the original title deed and there was no digital title. So the seller had provided what they could to the solicitors, but the solicitors hadn't pushed it forward through the land registry to get the title issue sorted out. We get to the point where we get the mortgage offer, which means that there's very little left to do. It's just a case of sorting the title out and then the money drops and that's the end of it. And then we realised that there was no title. So we needed to apply to the land registry to change the title or register a new title or whatever it was. And that should be fine. Problem is that the land registry are backed up for 15 months. So when you've got to wait 15 months for something and your bridging loan is ending in 2 months, say, well, what's going to happen after that 2 months? And this is where the perils of bridging finance come in, because even if you do everything that you can do within your power, sometimes there are things that are outside your control which can really pull your pants down if you're not careful. So the 2 months went by, we got to the end of the bridge and the land registry were no further forward. We'd applied to the land registry to expedite it, which puts it at the top of their normal pile and at the bottom of their expedite pile. And the land registry website says that it takes 10 days to expedite something. Well, here we are, we're still not sorted, and it's another 3 months later. So the headline when it comes to the end of your bridging term is that if you get to the end of your bridging term, the loaner, the bridging lender, is entitled to charge you an interest rate that they see fit and any fees. So to give you an idea, this bridge was only, it's a relatively small bridge in property world. This bridge was only about 110 grand or something. And from memory, they wanted, because we got to the end of the bridge, they wanted something like £6,000 in fees for overrunning and £3,600 a month interest until it got sorted out. So those are very, very salty fees, and not many properties at that price point will make £3,600 a month income to service interest payments of that. So if you're struggling, if it's your first deal and you're locked into a bridge and something happens outside your control, you've got very little option in that case other than to try and extend the bridge with them, which will incur fees, to try and service the debt yourself through your own income yourself or from your savings, and just hope and pray that the land registry come through with what they've got to offer, or you try and find a loan or something else that can replace the bridge. But it can be incredibly stressful. As it happens, in our case, part of the reason that not all the reason, but part of the reason that this has taken so long is that the bridging lender's solicitor was a bit slow sorting the paperwork out right at the beginning with the land registry. So we found ourselves in a position that we can't do anything about. There's a little bit of fault at the bridging lender's door, but the land registry backups aren't the bridging lender's fault. So we've come to an arrangement with them. And the arrangement is very much reduced fees, very much reduced interest, and now we're paying similar to a mortgage payment would be. but we still haven't got the refinance. We've extended the term of the bridge for 6 months, so we've got plenty of time now, hopefully, touch wood, for the money to drop. But at the same time, we've also got other projects going on. So we are lucky in a way. Well, we are not lucky. We've worked hard to be in a position where our portfolio generates enough cash flow to be able to carry on our normal activities, which is the other projects that we've got going on, and service the payments on the lower interest rate on the bridge, and also everything else that we're doing. But it just made me think that had this been our first deal or our second, and we didn't have a portfolio that generated income, we would really have struggled. And there's lots of ways to exit. You could just convert it and sell it. You've got a property that might have started life at, I don't know, 100 grand, and it's now worth 300 grand or something. So you've got equity in it, where you can try and flip it onto another bridge, or you can try and get a private investor to come and take a charge on the property that pays off the bridge. There's all sorts of options available, but it is stressful, especially if you're also tied into other projects that you're renovating. But this is where you find out whether you've got the stones for doing property at scale, I suppose, because these are the challenges that everybody will encounter at some point, and the difficulty always involves money. Cash flow forecasting is also important in this situation, because if you're relying on a refinance coming through to fund the renovation of your next project, or to fund the deposit on the next property that you're buying, and it gets delayed, it has a knock-on effect for everything that you've got in your pipeline. So there's some real lessons that we've learned here. And we've got another property that's about to get refinanced. I mean, we should have had this refinance several months ago to fund a project that we're doing, which we've had to finance ourselves. Then this one refinancing to fund the next one. And what's going to happen is both these refinances are going to come together. And fortunately, due to our circumstances, we've been able to get through this period quite all right. But it's stressful, and forecasting where your cash flow comes in, and through your programme of works expecting where big bills are going to be, and lining it up with your outgoings. So you might have big fees to pay for professional services, or bridging loan exit fees, or whatever, and being able to forecast them all on a nice spreadsheet so you can see your estimated cash flow in and cash flow out is something that I'm going to be much more robust with moving forwards. I thought it was quite robust anyway, but you get past your worst case scenario and you're into unknown territory. But it's only unknown the first time, so you're allowed to make, well, it's not making mistakes, you're allowed to experience something the first time, but you need to learn from it for the next time it happens. So it was fascinating, actually, to get through this process, and during the time it was really difficult in terms of what the bridging lender's going to do, because we'd never got to a point where we'd gone past the bridge before, we'd passed the end date, but our broker that does all our finance, he was really good. To be fair, the bridging lender was really good too, and because we'd been so upfront with communication with them and met all the milestones that they'd asked for all the way through, they were actually quite happy that, we've got an asset that's worth far more than we've got a bridge on for. Our money is perfectly safe, but you can't have our money for free, we need paying for it. So all in all, it worked out quite nicely. All's well that ends well, and it's just a matter of the land registry coming through now. But there's a cautionary tale in there for those newer property people that might be listening to this, that are thinking about bridging finance. It has a place, it certainly does, but you have to be careful about your exits and meeting the deadline for those exits, because otherwise it can be incredibly difficult. If you haven't got cash flowing, if that property that's got the bridge on it isn't cash flowing by the time the bridge exits, or you haven't got a cash flowing portfolio, it will very quickly become very murky for you. So there's the property doctor's lesson on bridging for this month. Other thing that's been happening recently is I've been pressing the button quite firmly on business acquisitions. So again, if you don't follow my socials, my socials are mainly property, but I do mention now and again that I'm looking to acquire businesses. At this moment in time, I'm focusing on the logistics sector, so that's big trucks and fulfillment centres. And I've been speaking to quite a lot of business owners. So I've sent lots of letters out to people to inquiring if they're looking at exiting, because I'm looking at entering. And I've had some great conversations. Unfortunately, I might have a meeting next week actually for one business, but most businesses haven't quite been suitable. They've not quite had what I'm looking for, but all the owners have been very, very kind, and there's been a whole mindset thing there about, what on earth does a property person or a doctor know about trucking? Well, the answer is, I might not personally know a lot about trucking, but there are lots of people. I've got industry mentors and I've got significant industry contacts that do. And I'm not going to be the one that's running it. The whole point here is I'm looking for businesses that I can put someone in or promote someone to run it whilst I concentrate on building my group, which is the whole point of the process. And they've been like, okay, fine, fair enough. So tell me about yourself then, which is quite cool. One of the things I've noticed is that quite a lot of these businesses are run by owners that are already wanting to exit, which is good because that's what I want. But because they've never sold a business before, they've naturally thought it's like selling a property. So with a property, if you want to sell it, you go to an estate agent, and the estate agent tells you what they think it's worth. Now, there's a similarity here between estate agents and business agents, in that if you want to sell your house, you get 3 estate agents typically, and the one that tells you it's worth the most is the one that's going to get the house to sell, because you want the most for your house. Similarly, that's what business agents do. They tell you it's going to be worth the most, so because they want your business. The difference is with estate agents, they typically work on either a fixed fee for selling it, or they tell you they get a small commission at the end when it does complete. So they're driven to sell, and they don't get paid until actually the contracts are exchanged and it's completed. So they need your property to sell. Business agents or business brokerages are different. They get paid when you sign up. They also get paid when you sell. But they don't need to get paid at the end. Their business model is entirely about getting you signed up. So to get you signed up, just like estate agents might, they'll go and say, oh, you've got a fantastic business here printing balloons. It's wonderful. How much does it make? And you might say, oh, well, it makes £100,000 a year. Net profit. Wow, that's wonderful, Mr. Smith. So I think we could sell this business. We've sold a business like this before, and we managed to sell it for £3 million. Wow, okay. It only makes £100,000 a year profit. Yes, but the business balloon industry is absolutely amazing. So £3 million, and we could probably get it sold within 6 months. Wow, okay. So where do I sign? So sign on here, that's £15,000 listing fee. Right, okay, yeah, okay, sounds nothing for £3 million exit. And then you get signed up, and nobody views or buys your business. And the vast majority of businesses that are in business agents are like that, because their business model is to get you signed up. They've got 80% of their workforce is trying to get people to sign up, and then they might have one office junior in the back office making phone calls trying to sell it. But that office junior might be getting 500 new listings a week to sell. So they're not bothered. If they manage to get one sold, then they'll get a decent commission, and that makes it all worthwhile. But all these people, it's all about the listing fees. So when you're speaking to business sellers that are already listed, quite a lot of them have got an idea of the value of their business that's based on what the agent or the business broker has told them, and that can make conversations quite difficult. And they might say, well, what do you know? You know, you're a doctor or you're in property. What do you know about the value of a business? Well, the answer to that is that a business is worth what someone's willing to pay for it, first of all. And if your business has been for sale for 7 years and nobody's bought it yet, then there's a hint there. And the second thing is you've got to have some sort of common sense about it. Because if you've got a business that's making £100,000 a year net profit and you want, say, £1 million for it, then that's 10 years of net profit that you've got to keep that business at that level without changing performance before you actually make any money on your acquisition. So who is going to pay £1 million for something and wait 10 years before they actually make any money on it? Well, not many will do that. So there's all sorts of things around how you value businesses. There's industry standards and all the rest of it, and it's different for every different sector. But it's interesting how these salesmen, which is what they are, that work in business brokerages, are very good at getting people onboarded. And then when you send them letters to the owners and they speak to you and the business has been there for 6 or 7 years and it's not sold, they get very demoralised. They feel like they get sold empty promises, which they might do. I don't know. I mean, I think the actual figures for it are that something is between 3 and 10% of businesses that are listed with business brokers actually sell within 5 years. So at its worst, 3%. That's pretty poor. And at its best, only 1 in 10. So 9 in 10 don't. I mean, that's... But the business brokerages are very profitable businesses in their own right. But we know why now, don't we? So there we go. Just a short but sweet episode on what's been happening with us recently, and a couple of things that have just been springing to my mind as time's gone on. There's plenty more coming on the podcast. I've got some quite big names from the world of business coming on, and also some decent property stuff too. So we should have some absolute crackers. There may be times where we might have to miss a week because I'm trying to line up some quite well-known people and their schedules might not mix and match with mine, so we might have the odd week now and again where there isn't an episode, rather than the relentless one a week that I've been doing for the past year or so. But I'll try and get the good people on, the good stories, and we'll see what happens. And I'll keep you updated on my business acquisition journey, because I've got big plans with that too. So once again, thank you very much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube and you like this, then like and subscribe and do all that business. I'm sure it helps the algorithm, whatever that is. But yeah, thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you all next time.